The council chamber on Unity Station was designed to make every species feel small. The ceilings stretched up into darkness, and the walls glowed with the light of 1,000 worlds. Ambassador Hana Kwon sat in the human section, which was near the back. Humans were still new to the galaxy, still unimportant. Hana watched as the War Prime of the Kravesh walked to the center of the chamber. The Kravesh were 8 feet tall with skin like stone. They had fought in wars for 10,000 years. When the War Prime spoke, his voice shook the floor. "The Vrelnath swarm has taken the Epsilon sector," he announced. 14 worlds are gone, their populations consumed. The swarm adapts to every weapon we use. Our warriors die by the thousands, and still they come. Hana had read the reports. The Vrelnath were like insects, but massive and intelligent in their own way. They shared one mind across billions of bodies. When you killed them with fire, the next wave was fireproof. When you used cold, they adapted to ice. They learned from every battle and became stronger. The Council requires all member species to provide military support, the War Prime continued. His eyes, black as space, swept across the chamber. Every species must send soldiers. This is not a request, it is law. Around the chamber, ambassadors from dozens of worlds began to argue. The Delcari, who wore armor made from their own shells, demanded to know how many soldiers. The small Piltheen, who could barely fight at all, begged for exemptions. Everyone was afraid. Hana calculated quickly. Earth had been part of the Council for 47 years. In galactic terms, humans were babies. The Council saw them as useful for building things and fixing machines, not for fighting. The Kravesh could lift a car over their heads. The Delcari had natural armor that could stop bullets. Humans were just average, not strong enough to impress anyone. The War Prime raised one massive hand and the arguing stopped. Small species will provide 500 soldiers, medium species 2,000, large species 5,000. Hana did the math. Humans were classified as medium size, 2,000 soldiers. Earth could provide that, but it would strain their space forces. She prepared to negotiate for a smaller number or perhaps offer technical support instead. "Humans," the War Prime said suddenly, looking directly at her section. "You are reclassified. Your population size requires a quota of 5,000 soldiers." 5,000. Hana felt her stomach drop. That was nearly a quarter of Earth's entire space military. She stood up slowly, feeling the eyes of hundreds of aliens on her. "War Prime, humanity respectfully requests—" "There are no exceptions," he interrupted. 5,000 soldiers. You have 1 month to deliver them to Forward Operating Base Typhon. The meeting ended shortly after. Ambassadors rushed to send messages to their home worlds. Hana walked slowly back to the human embassy section of the station. Her assistant, a young man named June, met her at the door. "I heard," he said quietly. 5,000. That's almost impossible." "Send an encrypted message to Fleet Admiral Kang Day," Hana said. "Mark it urgent. Tell him the Council demands 5,000 soldiers for the Swarm War. Ask for instructions." She expected arguments, negotiations. Maybe even Earth, refusing and risking their Council membership. The Unified Defense Command protected Earth and its colonies. They would not want to send so many soldiers to die in an alien war. The response came back in 20 minutes. Hana read it 3 times, not believing what she saw. "Quota accepted. Personnel will arrive at FOB Typhon in 26 days. Admiral Kang Day, Unified Defense Command." June stared at the message. "That's it? No negotiation? No questions?" "There's an attachment," Hana said slowly. "It's classified. Command level only." She entered her security codes and opened the attachment. Her face went pale as she read. "Ambassador? What does it say?" Hana closed the file quickly. "It says to prepare the Council for Operation Nightfall. It says, It says they're activating Reaper Protocol. What's Reaper Protocol? I don't know, Hana lied, but she did know. Every high-level official in Earth's government knew. They just never spoke about it. It was the thing from before first contact, from the dark years when humans fought each other. The thing they had locked away and hoped to never use again. She had read the files once, years ago, when she first became ambassador. The files had given her nightmares for months. 2 weeks later, Hana received a visit from a Delcari officer named Crix. He was a military liaison, assigned to help coordinate the arrival of human forces at FOB Typhon. "Ambassador Quan," he said, his voice friendly, "I wanted to discuss the integration of your soldiers into our battle groups. We've prepared training materials to help them adjust to combat against the swarm." "That won't be necessary," Hana said. Crix made a sound like laughter. "I understand human pride, but your species has never fought the swarm. Our warriors have experience. We can help keep your soldiers alive. I appreciate the offer, but these soldiers don't need training." "All soldiers need training, Ambassador. The swarm is unlike anything your people have faced." Hana looked at him carefully. Crix seemed kind for a warrior species. He genuinely wanted to help. She felt sorry for him, sorry for all of them. "Officer Crix, I need to ask you something. In your species' history, have you ever created something that terrified you? Something so dangerous that you locked it away and hoped to never use it again?" Crix thought about this. "No. The Delcari honor strength. We would never fear our own creations." "Humans do," Hana said softly. "We fear what we're capable of becoming." "I don't understand." "You will," Hana said. "In 26 days you'll understand." On Earth, deep in the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit, lights began to turn on in a facility that had been silent for decades. Site Omega, the station that did not officially exist, came alive. In its core, thousands of pods filled with frozen bodies began the thaw process. Admiral Kang Day watched from the command center on Earth. He was an old man now, but he remembered the corporate wars. He remembered the cities burning and the bodies in the streets. He remembered the day they activated the Reaper program and how quickly the wars ended after that. He remembered the fear in everyone's eyes when they realized what they had created. "Sir," his aide said, "the activation codes are ready. Do you want to reconsider?" "The galaxy asked for soldiers," Admiral Kang Day said. "We're giving them what they asked for." "But sir, the Reapers—" "I know what they are," the Admiral said. "I helped create them, and I know they're the only thing that can stop the swarm." He entered the activation codes. Across the solar system, on a station no one was supposed to know about, thousands of monsters opened their eyes. Dr. Yunabei had been dead for 30 years, but her recorded message still played in the archives of Site Omega. The video was classified at the highest level. Only a handful of people in the entire solar system had clearance to watch it. In the video, Dr. Bay sat in a white room. She looked tired. Behind her eyes was something that might have been guilt or might have been pride. It was hard to tell. "This is the final record of the Reaper program," she said to the camera. "I want people to understand what we did and why we did it, not to justify it, just to explain." The video cut to images of Earth during the corporate wars. Cities on fire, refugee camps stretching for miles, mass graves. The wars had started over resources and ended up being about nothing at all, just killing for the sake of killing. "We tried everything to stop the wars," Dr. Bay continued. "Peace talks failed, economic sanctions failed, even limited military intervention failed. The corporations had their own armies, and they were willing to fight forever. Millions were dying every month. We needed to end it quickly, or there would be no Earth left to save." The video showed scientists in laboratories, brain scans, genetic tests, endless interviews with volunteers. The Reaper program was not about creating super soldiers, Dr. Bay explained. We didn't give them enhanced strength or speed. We didn't modify their bodies. What we did was worse. We searched for people who were born different, people whose brains were wired in a specific way. She paused and looked directly at the camera. We searched for people who could kill without feeling anything at all. The words hung in the air like poison. Most people can't kill easily. Even trained soldiers feel fear, anger, or regret. These emotions make them hesitate, make them make mistakes. But there are people, very rare people, who don't feel these things. Their brains simply don't process emotions the same way. We found them, we tested them, and then we trained them. The video showed training facilities, obstacle courses that looked impossible, shooting ranges, hand-to-hand combat, but also classrooms where students learned to think in pure logic, to see humans as targets and nothing more. The training had a 3% survival rate, Dr. Bay said, not because we killed the failures, but because only 3% could complete it without breaking mentally. Those who survived became something that wasn't quite human anymore. They became Reapers. One file stood out among all the others. Subject 001. Real name, Tai Jin. Tai Jin had been a volunteer at age 19. His psychological profile showed what the program was looking for. No fear response. No emotional attachment to others. Perfect pattern recognition. The ability to analyze a situation and find the most efficient solution without any moral consideration. Subject 001 completed his first mission at age 22. Dr. Bay's voice continued. He eliminated a high-value corporate target along with the target's 12 bodyguards. Mission time, 4 minutes. Casualties, 13 enemy combatants. Civilian casualties, 0. Subject 001 showed no stress indicators before, during, or after the mission. The video showed mission after mission. Tai Jin moving through buildings like a ghost, each target eliminated with perfect precision. No wasted movement, no hesitation. He didn't kill with anger or pleasure. He killed the way a machine completes a task. In 3 years of active service, Subject 001 completed 47 high-value eliminations, Dr. Bay said. 0 failures, 0 civilian casualties, 0 errors. He was the perfect weapon. The final mission was the one that ended the corporate wars. In a single night, Reapers deployed across 3 continents. Every major corporate leader was eliminated simultaneously. The corporations collapsed overnight. The wars ended within a week. We won, Dr. Bay said in the video. We saved Earth. But when people learned what we had created, they were horrified. Not at the corporations, at us, at what we had made to defeat them. She leaned closer to the camera. They asked us, what's the difference between us and the enemy if we create monsters like this? And I didn't have a good answer. So we made a choice. We put all the Reapers into cryogenic suspension. We told the world they were decommissioned. We built Site Omega beyond Neptune, where no one would find them. We locked away our monsters and tried to forget they existed. The video ended with Dr. Bay looking at something off camera. But I knew, she said quietly. I always knew that someday Earth would face something so terrible that we would need them again. I just hoped I would be dead before that day came. The screen went black. Director Mira Song turned off the video. She was standing in the control room of Site Omega, watching through reinforced glass as the thaw process completed. Below her, in row after row of pods, the Reapers were waking up. They woke up in perfect silence. No confusion, no disorientation. They simply opened their eyes, assessed their surroundings, and waited for instructions. Mira watched as Tai Jin sat up in his pod. He was 47 years old chronologically, but the cryogenic sleep meant his body was still 25. He looked exactly as he had the day they froze him. His face showed no emotion, no curiosity, nothing. Begin briefing protocol, Mira said into the intercom. Throughout the facility, Reapers received information directly into their neural implants. The galaxy, the Council, the Vrelnath swarm, attack patterns, casualty rates, mission parameters. 5,000 Reapers processed the information in silence. They asked no questions. They showed no concern. They simply absorbed the data and prepared for deployment. Mira walked down to the main chamber. Tae-Jin was already dressed in the black armor that all Reapers wore. No insignia, no identification. Just a number on his chest, 001. "Do you understand the mission?" Mira asked him. "Yes, Director," Tae-Jin responded. His voice was flat, emotionless. "Eliminate all Vrelnath organisms in designated combat zones. Minimize human casualties. Complete mission within projected time frame." "This isn't like the corporate wars," Mira said. "These are aliens, a hive mind. They adapt to everything." "Adaptation requires pattern recognition," Tae-Jin said. "We do not use patterns." Mira looked at him, really looked at him, tried to see if there was any humanity left in there, any fear about going to war against an alien enemy, any excitement, any emotion at all. There was nothing. "The galaxy doesn't know what you are," she said. "They think we're sending regular soldiers." "That is acceptable," Tae-Jin said. "They're going to be afraid of you." "That is acceptable." "Tae-Jin," Mira said, using his name instead of his number. "Do you feel anything about this mission? About fighting aliens instead of humans?" Tae-Jin processed the question for exactly 2 seconds. "The target species is irrelevant," he said. "The mission parameters are clear. We will complete the objective." Mira nodded slowly. This was what they had created. This was what Dr. Bay had warned about. Weapons so perfect that they had stopped being human. "Transport ships are ready," she said. "You deploy to Fob Typhon in 6 hours." "Understood." Tae-Jin walked away to prepare. Mira watched him go, then looked out at the other 4,999 Reapers moving through the facility. All of them silent, all of them efficient. All of them ready to kill without hesitation or remorse. Earth was about to show the galaxy its darkest secret, the monsters that even humans feared. Commander Zolthas of the Kravesh stood on the landing platform of Forward Operating Base Typhon and tried not to show his frustration. The base was a massive military installation built on an asteroid at the edge of contested space. Ships came and went constantly, bringing fresh troops and supplies for the war against the swarm. Today, Zolthas was waiting for the humans. "They will need extensive training," his second officer said. "Humans are weak, soft. They will panic when they see the swarm." Zolthas had fought the swarm for 2 years. He had seen brave Kravesh warriors torn apart by the alien creatures. He had watched the Delkari, with their natural armor, get dissolved by acid. The swarm was a nightmare that adapted to every tactic. They learned and evolved faster than any enemy he had ever faced, and now he was supposed to integrate 5,000 humans into his battle groups. "They are providing engineers and medics," Zolthas said. "Support troops. They will stay in the rear areas." "Still a waste of resources," his second said. "Better to have 5,000 more Kravesh." Zolthas privately agreed, but he kept his thoughts to himself. The council had ordered all species to contribute. Humans were part of the council, so humans would fight, even if they died quickly. "The transport is approaching," a technician announced. Zolthas watched as 3 large human ships entered the hangar. They were plain, functional vessels with no decorations. Military transports. They landed in perfect formation, and the loading ramps descended. What emerged made Zolthas stop breathing. 5,000 figures in black armor marched out in absolute silence. They moved in perfect unison, each step synchronized. Their armor had no markings except for numbers. Their helmets hid their faces completely. They carried weapons that Zolthas didn't recognize. "What?" his second officer started to say, then stopped. The humans formed into ranks on the landing platform. Not a single one spoke. Not a single one looked around with curiosity or fear. They simply stood in perfect stillness, waiting. Zolthas had seen armies before. He had commanded warriors from a dozen species. But he had never seen soldiers move like this. It was too perfect, too precise, like machines instead of living beings. A single human stepped forward from the ranks. The number on his chest plate read 001. "I am Commander Zolthas," the Kravesh said, his voice booming across the platform. "Welcome to Forward Operating Base Typhon. I will be coordinating your integration into our forces." The human stood silently for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was flat and emotionless. "I am Primary Reaper 001. We do not require integration. Assign contested zone. We will eliminate target organisms." Zolthas felt his warrior pride bristle at the tone. "You misunderstand your role here, human. This is a coordinated military operation. All forces must work together." "Inefficient," the human interrupted. "Review of combat data shows Council forces suffer 87% casualties in direct swarm engagement. Tactics are inadequate. We operate independently." The second officer stepped forward, angry now. "You dare insult Kravesh battle tactics? We have fought for 10,000... "Facts are not insults," the human said. "Your tactics fail because you seek honorable combat. The swarm does not care about honor. Assign contested zone. We will complete the mission." Zolthas held up a hand to stop his officer from attacking the arrogant human. He studied this Reaper 001 carefully. There was something wrong here. Something that made his warrior instincts scream warnings. "Very well," Zolthas said slowly. "Zone Sigma 7. 3 Council assault waves have failed to clear the swarm infestation there. It is considered a high-casualty zone. Acceptable. Time estimate for full elimination, 72 hours. Zolthas couldn't help it. He laughed. It was a deep, booming sound. 72 hours? That zone has been contested for 3 months. Thousands of warriors have died there. Their tactics were inefficient, Reaper 001 said. Withdraw all Council forces from Zone Sigma 7. We deploy in 6 hours. The human turned and walked back to his troops. They all moved as one, marching toward the equipment bay. Not a single one had spoken except for their leader. Not a single one had shown any emotion. Officer Crix, the Delcari liaison, approached Zolthas as the humans disappeared into the base. "What did the humans send us?" Crix asked quietly. "I don't know," Zolthas admitted, "but those are not normal soldiers." Later that day, Zolthas met with his command staff to brief them on the human deployment. The room was filled with veterans from multiple species. All of them had fought the swarm. All of them had lost friends. "The humans deploy to Zone Sigma 7 at dawn," Zolthas announced. "They claim they will clear it in 72 hours. Several officers laughed. One, a scarred Kravesh captain, spoke up. "They'll all be dead in 12 hours. Sigma 7 is a death trap." "Perhaps," Zolthas said, "but I want full satellite surveillance of the zone. I want to see how they fight." "Why waste the resources?" another officer asked. "Because," Zolthas said slowly, "I think we need to understand what these humans really are." That night, Zolthas couldn't sleep. He reviewed the brief interaction with Reaper 01 over and over in his mind. Something about the human bothered him deeply. It wasn't the arrogance. Kravesh warriors were arrogant too. It was something else. The human showed no fear. That was normal for a warrior, but he also showed no excitement. No anger, no pride. Nothing. Just cold efficiency. Zolthas had fought alongside many species. He had seen cowards and heroes, but he had never seen someone with no emotions at all. He accessed the human files in the Council database. There wasn't much information. Humans were classified as a balanced species, not particularly strong or fast, but adaptable and intelligent, good with technology, decent fighters but nothing special. The files said nothing about emotionless soldiers in black armor. Zolthus tried to contact Ambassador Quan on Unity Station. Maybe she could explain what these Reapers were. But her office said she was unavailable and would not be taking calls for the next several days. In the equipment bay, the Reapers prepared for deployment with mechanical precision. They cleaned weapons, checked armor seals, and reviewed tactical data. They worked in complete silence, except for necessary communication. Tae-Jin stood apart from the others, studying a holographic map of Zone Sigma 7. The zone was a nightmare of tunnels and caves inside a massive asteroid field. The swarm had built a hive complex deep inside. Every approach was covered by evolved hunter forms. The tunnels were too narrow for heavy vehicles. The swarm had adapted to every weapon the Council had used. It was the perfect environment for Reapers. Tae-Jin analyzed the map for 17 minutes, then sent updated tactical plans to all units. The other Reapers received the data and adjusted their loadouts accordingly. No one questioned the plan. No one offered suggestions. They simply prepared to execute. A young human technician from the base approached cautiously. He had heard these were human soldiers and wanted to welcome them, maybe share news from Earth. "Hey!" he called out. "You guys are from Earth, right? I'm from—" The nearest Reaper turned to look at him. The technician stopped talking immediately. There was something in that blank helmet visor that made his blood run cold. The Reaper stared at him for 3 seconds, then turned back to his equipment without saying a word. The technician left quickly and never approached them again. 6 hours later, the Reapers boarded their transport ships. Zolthus watched from the command center as they departed for Zone Sigma 7. The ships moved with the same eerie precision as the Reapers themselves. "Begin satellite observation," Zolthus ordered. "I want to see everything." His officers gathered around the screens. They were curious now, despite themselves. They wanted to see how these strange humans would die. But Zolthus felt something different, something that felt almost like fear, because he realized that he had made a mistake. These weren't soldiers coming to die gloriously in battle. These were predators going hunting, and the swarm was about to learn what it meant to be prey. Zone Sigma 7 was a graveyard. The asteroid field stretched for thousands of kilometers, each rock riddled with tunnels where the swarm had built their hive. Broken Council warships drifted between the asteroids, silent monuments to failed assaults. The Reaper transport ships approached without signals or announcements. They simply appeared at the edge of the zone and deployed their troops. 200 Reapers led by Tae-Jin would hit the primary hive. The other 4,800 were divided into teams to eliminate secondary nests and cut off escape routes. Every Reaper knew their exact role. Every Reaper moved with purpose. In the command center on Fob Typhon, Zolthus and his officers watched the satellite feeds. The screens showed the Reapers entering the asteroid tunnels in small groups, 5 or 6 soldiers per team, moving slowly and silently. "They're walking into a kill zone," one officer muttered. "The swarm will detect them immediately." But minutes passed, and nothing happened. The Reapers moved deeper into the tunnels. Their thermal signatures showed on the screens, but there was no sign of swarm response. "Where are the swarm organisms?" Zolthus asked. A technician checked the sensors. "Sir, the swarm is there. We're detecting thousands of life signs throughout the complex, but they're not reacting to the human intrusion." "That's impossible. The swarm always swarms attackers immediately." On the screen, a team of Reapers led by Operative Hyun-Rin moved through a tunnel. The camera from her helmet feed showed the interior of the asteroid. Dark. Silent. The walls were covered in the organic material that the swarm used to build their structures. Suddenly, movement. 3 swarm warrior forms dropped from the ceiling. They were the size of large dogs, with razor-sharp claws and mandibles that could bite through armor. They moved faster than human eyes could track. The officers in the command center expected to see the Reapers torn apart. Instead, they watched something that made no sense. Hyun-Rin and her team killed all 3 warriors before they hit the ground. The shots were perfectly placed. Headshots, every single one. The warriors fell dead without making a sound. "Run that back," Zoltas ordered. The technician replayed the footage in slow motion. The swarm warriors had dropped at incredible speed, but the Reapers were faster. They had aimed and fired in less than a second. Perfect accuracy, no wasted shots. No panic, just efficient killing. "Their reaction time is impossible," an officer said. "Even with combat drugs, no one can move that fast." But the Reapers weren't using drugs. They were using something else. Years of training that had rewired their brains. Perfect pattern recognition. The ability to predict movement and respond before conscious thought. They didn't think about shooting. They just did it. Hyun-Rin's team kept moving. They encountered more swarm organisms. Each time, the result was the same. Quick, silent elimination. The Reapers didn't waste ammunition. Every shot killed. When their guns ran empty, they switched to blades. When the tunnels were too narrow for guns, they used their hands. An officer watching the feed turned away, looking sick. "They're not soldiers. They're killing machines." Zoltas said nothing. He was too focused on the screens. Deeper in the complex, Tai Jin's team reached the primary hive chamber. It was enormous, carved out of the asteroid's core. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent growth, and everywhere there were swarm organisms, thousands of them. The swarm had evolved specifically for this environment, flying hunters that could navigate the zero-gravity spaces. Acid spitters that could melt through armor. Heavy warrior forms designed to crush attackers. This was why 3 council assaults had failed. This was where thousands of brave warriors had died. Tae-jin analyzed the chamber for 8 seconds. Then he sent silent signals to his team. They spread out along the walls, moving to predetermined positions. The swarm finally noticed them. The hive mind recognized the threat. Thousands of organisms turned toward the intruders, the air filled with screeching sounds as the swarm prepared to attack. Tae-jin's team opened fire. It wasn't a battle, it was extermination. The Reapers had positioned themselves at calculated points around the chamber. Their firing lanes overlapped perfectly. Every swarm organism that moved into the open was shot from multiple angles. The Reapers didn't aim at individual targets. They created a zone of death that nothing could cross. Flying hunters tried to attack from above. They died in mid-air, shot by Reapers who predicted their flight paths with mathematical precision. Acid spitters tried to attack from range. They were killed before they could spit. Heavy warriors tried to charge. They fell with destroyed leg joints, unable to reach the Reapers. "They're going to run out of ammunition," an officer said in the command center. "There are too many swarm organisms." But the Reapers had planned for this. When their primary weapons ran low, they switched to explosives. Carefully placed charges that collapsed tunnel sections, crushing hundreds of swarm organisms at once. When the explosives were used up, they switched to energy weapons. When those overheated, they used blades and fought hand-to-hand with the same cold efficiency. A swarm warrior managed to grab Reaper 412, Operative Wu Yun. Its claws pierced her armor and she should have died. Instead, she drove a knife into the warrior's brainstem, killed it, then calmly applied emergency sealant to her wound. She was back in the fight within seconds. The swarm had one advantage: adaptation. The hive mind learned from each death, passing information to other organisms. It evolved new tactics in real time, but the Reapers had already planned for this. They never used the same tactic twice. Every engagement was different. Every approach was unique. The swarm couldn't adapt to patterns that didn't exist. In the command center, the officers watched in stunned silence. They had all fought the swarm. They knew how terrifying it was. But watching the Reapers fight was more terrifying in a different way. They don't feel fear, Crick said quietly. Look at their vital signs. Heart rate steady, no adrenaline spike. They're killing thousands of organisms and their bodies aren't reacting at all. It was true. The medical monitors showed that the Reapers were as calm during combat as they were during rest. They weren't suppressing fear. They simply didn't feel it. After 6 hours of continuous combat, Tae-jin's team reached the Hive Queen. She was massive, the size of a small building, surrounded by her most evolved defenders. The Council had tried to kill Hive Queens before. It took orbital bombardment to succeed. Tae-jin studied the Queen for 4 seconds, then signaled his team. They moved with precision, using shaped charges to collapse the ceiling above the Queen. Tons of rock fell, crushing her and her defenders. The Queen died without the Reapers firing a single shot. With the Queen dead, the Hive's coordination broke down. The swarm organisms became confused, their shared mind fractured. The Reapers moved through the complex systematically, eliminating the remaining organisms with the same cold efficiency. 68 hours after deployment, Tae-jin sent a message back to HFY Typhon. Primary hive eliminated, secondary nests eliminated, Zone Sigma 7 cleared of all swarm organisms, Reaper casualties 0, beginning return to base. In the command center, no one spoke for a full minute. Finally, Zolthus stood up. Send verification teams. I want confirmation that Zone Sigma 7 is truly clear. The verification teams arrived 12 hours later. They found exactly what the Reapers had reported. The zone was empty. Every swarm organism was dead. The hive structures were destroyed. 3 months of failed assaults, thousands of casualties, and the humans had cleared it in less than 3 days without losing a single soldier. The verification team commander, a veteran Kravesh warrior, sent his report back with shaking hands. Sir, he said to Zolthus, I've seen battlefields before. This wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. The swarm didn't stand a chance. These humans, they hunted every single organism. There are bodies in tunnels so deep and narrow that our soldiers couldn't even reach them. The humans went everywhere, killed everything. They were thorough. When the Reapers returned to HFY Typhon, the entire base came out to watch. Thousands of soldiers from multiple species lined the landing platforms. They had all heard what happened. They needed to see these humans for themselves. The Reapers disembarked in the same perfect silence they had arrived with. They formed ranks and stood waiting for orders. If they felt pride in their accomplishment, they didn't show it. If they were tired from 3 days of continuous combat, there was no sign. They were exactly the same as before. Emotionless, efficient, terrifying. Zolthus approached Tae-jin. The Kravesh commander, who had fought in hundreds of battles, found himself afraid of this small human. You completed the mission, Zolthus said. Yes, Tae-jin replied. What are you? Zolthus asked quietly. What did Earth send us? Tae-jin was silent for a moment. Then he said, We are Reapers. We eliminate targets. That is our purpose. Are you human? We were, Tae-jin said, once. Then he and his Reapers marched away, leaving Zolthus standing alone. The Kravesh warrior had faced death many times without fear. But watching those humans walk away made him feel something he had never felt before. He felt like prey. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communication. Zone Sigma 7, which had resisted the Council's best warriors for 3 months, had fallen in 68 hours to a human force that suffered 0 casualties. At first, many thought it was a mistake, a communication error. But verification teams confirmed it was true. The Council's War Command made a decision that would change the course of the war. They deployed Reapers to 17 contested zones simultaneously. The orders were simple. Eliminate all swarm presence. In every zone, the result was the same. Total swarm elimination. Minimal human casualties. What the galaxy's armies couldn't accomplish in months, the Reapers completed in weeks. Narration was a human intelligence analyst working for Council Intelligence. She had been assigned to compile a report on Reaper effectiveness. What she discovered made her sick. The files were heavily classified, but she had high-level clearance. She learned about the corporate wars, about Dr. Bay's program, about the psychological selection process. She learned that the Reapers weren't soldiers at all. They were humans who had been stripped of their humanity and turned into weapons. She sat in her office on Unity Station reading mission reports. Every report was the same. Perfect efficiency. Zero emotional response. Complete mission success. The Reapers fought like machines, but they were alive. They just didn't feel anything. Nari tried to compile her report objectively, but she couldn't. She added a section that her superiors later deleted. We have deployed walking nightmares. These are not soldiers fighting for a cause. They are predators designed to kill without conscience. The galaxy asked humanity for help, and we showed them the monsters that even we fear. The report was classified at the highest level, but fragments leaked anyway. Galactic media started calling the Reapers the Silent Death. Stories spread about the humans who killed without making a sound, who felt nothing, who could not be reasoned with or scared or stopped. Alien soldiers began refusing to serve alongside Reapers. Not because the Reapers were ineffective, but because they were too effective. Warriors from proud species watched Reapers work and felt revulsion. This wasn't warfare. This was extermination. A Krevesh captain named Dormak served in the same sector as a Reaper unit. He later gave an interview that was broadcast across multiple worlds. I have fought in glorious combat for 20 years, he said. I have faced death with honor. But watching the Reapers fight, there is no glory in what they do. They kill the way you would step on an insect, efficiently, without thought. I saw one of them execute an entire swarm nest, hundreds of organisms. He showed the same expression the whole time. Nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. Just empty efficiency. The interviewer asked if the Reapers were effective. Effective? Dormak laughed bitterly. They are the most effective killers in the galaxy. That's what makes them terrifying. They cannot be stopped because they don't care about stopping. They don't care about anything. 6 weeks into the deployment, something unprecedented happened. The Vrelnath swarm began retreating from zones where Reapers were deployed. The swarm, which had never shown fear, was afraid. Scientists studying the swarm's behavior were shocked. The hive mind was avoiding human forces. When Reapers entered a system, the swarm would withdraw rather than fight. This had never happened before. The swarm learns, one scientist explained in a report. It adapts to threats, but it's encountering something it cannot adapt to. The Reapers don't use predictable patterns. They don't make mistakes. They don't stop. The swarm is intelligent enough to recognize a predator it cannot defeat. Ambassador Hana Kwan was summoned to an emergency council session. She had been avoiding this meeting for weeks, knowing it would come eventually. She stood in the great chamber where this had all started and felt the weight of thousands of alien eyes on her. The council leader, an ancient being whose species had existed for millions of years, spoke first. Ambassador Kwan, the council requires an explanation. What are these soldiers Earth has sent us? Hana had prepared a dozen diplomatic answers, careful phrases that would avoid the truth. But standing there, facing the fear in every alien face, she decided to be honest. They are not soldiers, she said clearly. Soldiers fight for causes, for their people, for honor or duty or survival. These are different. Explain, the council leader demanded. Hana took a breath. Before we joined the council, Earth was at war with itself. Corporations with private armies fought for control. Millions died. We tried everything to stop it. Nothing worked. So we created the Reaper program. She pulled up classified files and displayed them for the entire council to see. Images of the corporate wars, Dr. Bay's research, the psychological profiles, the training programs. We searched for humans who could kill without feeling anything, Hana continued. People whose brains were different, who didn't process emotions normally. We found them. We trained them. We turned them into perfect weapons. The chamber was silent. They ended the corporate wars in a single night, Hana said. Every corporate leader eliminated simultaneously. The wars ended, Earth was united, but we were horrified by what we had created. So we locked them away, put them in cryogenic sleep, told ourselves we would never use them again. Until now, the council leader said. Until now, Hana agreed. You requested soldiers. We sent what works. A Delcari counselor stood up, anger in his voice. You sent monsters. These creatures are an abomination. They kill without honor, without feeling. This is not warfare. This is extermination. Yes, Hana said simply. That's exactly what it is. You asked us to help stop the swarm. The swarm cannot be stopped with honor. It can only be exterminated. So we sent exterminators. The Reapers must be decommissioned immediately, another counselor demanded. They are too dangerous. No, Hana said firmly. They remain under human control. You do not get to ask for our help and then dictate how we provide it. The chamber erupted in argument. Species that had been allies for centuries turned on each other. Some demanded the Reapers be destroyed. Others argued they were necessary to win the war. The debate lasted for hours. Finally, the council leader raised a hand for silence. The Reapers will remain deployed until the swarm is defeated, he declared. But after that, this council will revisit the question of their existence. It was a compromise that satisfied no one. 4 months after the first deployment, the Vrelnath swarm was pushed back to its origin systems. The war that had seemed unwinnable was suddenly ending. Total Reaper casualties, 127. Swarm casualties, estimated 47 million organisms. The galaxy had been saved, but at a cost no one had anticipated. The Council held an emergency meeting to discuss Earth's new status. The classification of humans as auxiliary support was clearly wrong. But what should they be instead? They are a strategic deterrent species, one counselor suggested. Like the ancient weapons of the old wars, too dangerous to use except in the most extreme situations. The proposal passed with near unanimity. Humanity had gone from the newest, least respected species to one of the most feared in the span of 4 months. Not because humans were stronger or faster or smarter, but because they had shown they were willing to create and deploy weapons that even they feared. On Site Omega, the Reapers returned to cryogenic suspension. They had completed their mission. The war was over. They had no emotions about this. No sense of accomplishment. They simply entered their pods and went back to sleep. Tae Jin was the last to enter suspension. Director Mira Song stood nearby, watching him prepare. "Do you feel anything about what you accomplished?" she asked. "You helped save the galaxy?" Tae Jin processed the question. "We completed the mission parameters, nothing more. But you killed millions of swarm organisms. Doesn't that mean anything to you? The target species is irrelevant. The mission success rate is the only metric that matters." Mira nodded slowly. This was what Dr. Bay had warned about. The Reapers weren't human anymore. They were tools, weapons, nothing more. "Before you go under," Mira said, "I need you to understand something. The galaxy is afraid of you. Afraid of all of you. Afraid of what you represent." "Fear is a logical response to an overwhelming threat," Tae Jin said. "Their assessment is correct." "And that doesn't bother you?" "No," Tae Jin said simply. "We are weapons. Weapons should be feared." He entered his pod, and the freezing process began. Mira watched through the glass as his vital signs slowed. In moments, he would be frozen again, locked away with the other monsters until Earth needed them again. Mira thought about what humanity had become, a species that could create perfect killers and then have the discipline to lock them away, a species that could unleash horror on its enemies and then contain it again. She wondered if that made humans the galaxy's protectors or its greatest threat. Perhaps both. The Council had asked for soldiers. Earth had sent the monsters it feared most. And now the entire galaxy knew what humans were capable of when pushed. In the embassies on Unity Station, ambassadors from dozens of species sent urgent messages to their home worlds. The messages all said variations of the same thing. Never threaten Earth. Never push humanity into a corner. They have shown us what they keep locked away. We do not want to see what else they might be hiding. Humanity had saved the galaxy. But in doing so, they had revealed a truth that could never be forgotten. Humans weren't the strongest species. They weren't the fastest or the most advanced. But they were the species willing to create monsters in their own image and then control them. That made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Ambassador Hana stood alone in her office, looking out at the stars. She thought about the Reapers frozen beyond Neptune, about the fear in every alien face when they spoke about humanity now, about the cost of survival. Earth had wanted respect from the galaxy. Instead, they had earned fear. Maybe that was better. Maybe that would keep humanity safe. Or maybe, Hana thought, they had just shown the galaxy exactly what to fear. Either way, the message was clear. You requested soldiers. We sent what works, and now you know what we're capable of. The galaxy would never forget.